Mic check. Mic check. Mic check.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Michelle Good. I'm with the Community Engagement Office. And tonight, during the presentation, it's going to be a live stream. So if you have a question during the question and answer, please raise your hand and we'll bring you a microphone because we want to be sure it ends up on the recorded and the live stream. So I know this room, everybody can hear you, but we still need you to use a microphone for the live stream. And so the council member's on his way, but we're going to go ahead and get started to respect your time. And so our city manager, Jay Chapa, will get us started.
Well, good evening. It's great to be here. Tonight we're going to start off with basically a summary video outlining the overall budget. And then we'll go through some slides that provide a little bit more information. And then we'll take any questions or requests that you might have as we go forward. So we'll go ahead and get started with the video.
Fort Worth reflects smart, strategic growth, benefiting from a fast-growing economy, safe and clean neighborhoods, and a high quality of life for all residents. This year, we reached a historic milestone, 1 million residents strong. With that growth comes opportunity to invest wisely and plan sustainably for the future. For fiscal year 2026, the city is proposing a $3.09 billion budget, including $1.1 billion general fund, focused on 5 city council priorities: community safety, infrastructure, community investment, economic development, and responsible growth. We are enhancing community safety by adding neighborhood police officers, providing full-year funding for our brand-new EMS service, and launching a new emergency management and communications department. And just as safety is essential, so is the infrastructure that keeps our city moving. We're prioritizing street maintenance and 2 major water treatment facility projects, while strengthening staffing to ensure crucial infrastructure projects are delivered on target. Neighborhoods remain at the heart of our plan, supported by strengthening the priority repair neighborhood improvement programs, expanding the mobile toolshed program to assist more homeowners, and adds resources to all animal shelters. By strengthening the places we live, we also lay the foundation for a thriving local economy. To boost economic growth, we're launching a small business development program and upgrading the Will Rogers Complex and Convention Center. We're delivering for today and planning for tomorrow. This is reflected by updating service fees for water, stormwater, solid waste, environmental protection to improve flood mitigation and ensure sustainable operations. And through payroll funding, a small but powerful portion of your property tax, we're increasing investment in street and park maintenance. Over the past decade, Fort Worth has kept budget growth in check, thanks to consistent tax rate reductions. The proposed tax rate of 67 cents is a decrease from last year. The typical household with a homestead exemption will pay less in taxes this year. Out of the 67-cent property tax rate, over 52 cents funds operations and maintenance, and 14 cents goes towards debt. We maintain a fiscally responsible strategy, strong credit rating, enabling the city to fund upcoming bond programs. The City Council will review the budget throughout August, with a final vote on September 16th.
Okay, as I mentioned before, I'm Jay Chapa, I'm the city manager. This is actually my first budget that was proposed to the city council as city manager, although I have been involved in 25 previous budgets with the city. I started off as a budget analyst and moved my way up through the organization. As we started this budget, one of the key things that we were dealing with were a changing landscape on the property tax side of things. Especially as we're dealing with our increase in population. At the state level, the state been passing several bills that impact the ability of the city's property tax, or it has an impact on our property tax side. And then at the local level, especially in Tarrant County, the appraisal district has changed how they are moving forward with residential properties. And so residential properties, existing residential properties with homestead exemptions, were not being reappraised in Fort Worth or in Tarrant County, and Fort Worth specifically for us. So we were coming in, the idea was that we were going to have this flat, we thought we were going to have a flat property tax or property valuation on the existing values. What ended up happening is we actually had a pretty good increase on new development, on the new development side. On the existing values overall came in at 2.4%. And really existing residential went down because a lot of folks ended up protesting their values that didn't get reappraised, and it actually went down in value. So overall, as you see through this budget, as we go through it, the proposal actually reduces the tax rate a little bit. If you have a homestead exemption and you weren't reappraised this year, and or you protested your values, your actual taxes to the city will actually go down this coming year. But as we went forward, in order to make sure that we were going to be able to balance the budget, we didn't know where all that was going to come out. I asked every department to start off by cutting 1% out of their budgets as we went forward. We also asked every department to produce 3% reduction packages in case a worst case scenario showed up where the values were so low that we were going to have to cut additional dollars. Police and fire didn't have to meet that 3%. They had a smaller number to meet. But the department directors and the departments did a great job. And we did move forward with the 1% cut, which allowed us then to bring in some additional programs as we moved forward while still cutting the tax rate. Some of the key things that we made sure that happened is, I've said it many times, but nobody wants to live in a city that's not safe. So the number one paramount piece for the city of Fort Worth is to make sure that we have a safe city. And police, fire, and EMS, bringing in MedStar to the city as part of the fire department was a big lift that just occurred, and as part of this next year, we're having to fully fund that. You'll see that as we go through there. We also, as a growing city, our infrastructure keeps getting older. We're growing faster than we can keep up to maintain it. And so we added funding for PAYGO, which is maintenance dollars in the various areas, streets, parks, and as an example. And then we decided to move forward and expand what's called the Housing Priority Repair Program, which is basically typically it's senior citizens, lower income, that have home issues and they can't afford to fix it. The idea is to try to maintain and not lose this older housing quality or housing stock, especially on the affordable side. And so folks can apply to have maintenance like plumbing issues, air conditioning issues, to receive a grant and have the work done on their homes. That was expanded by $500,000. The mobile toolshed program, we had a pilot program going on through our code compliance department. Our new director of code compliance brought this program to Fort Worth. And the idea is to work with neighborhoods and work with citizens to help maintain their properties and keep them in order, to help beautify the neighborhoods. And so you could actually, if you know somebody that doesn't have a lawnmower, can't afford a lawnmower, can't afford a yard person, you could call the city and request the use of a lawnmower, the use of a weed eater. They'll bring it to you. You use it for the day. You call them up. They'll come and pick it up the next day. And that way, the idea is to try to have neighborhoods stay in better shape so that folks that can't afford to keep their lawns, they'll have a vehicle to do that. And we've spread that. We're expanding that citywide. It's been a really strong program in the neighborhoods where we're providing it. And then the last piece, again, it's on the code compliance side. As we grow, we have more and more issues on the animal shelter side, with animals, loose animals, picking up animals, dealing with animals. And it's hard to keep up with that without adding a lot of staff. And so what we're doing is, the recommendation from our code compliance side is to contract with a group that we could bring in laborers to come and help when we have an overcrowding of the shelters and we need to be able to have folks there. And then finally, on an annual basis, keeping up to make sure that we can keep employees with the city, we do have a proposal to have a increase for employee pay at 4% average. It would be merit-based, like we typically do, and it runs between 3% and 7%, but an average of 4% overall. So when we put a budget together, the City Council adopted some strategic priorities a few years ago, and we try to put the budget together under these different pillars as we move forward and make sure that everything that we fund is leading to one or more of these priorities. On the community safety side, I mentioned the emergency medical service, EMS. This is the full funding of MedStar coming over to the city. The transition happened July 1st. Last year's budget, or the current year's budget, included only 3 months of that funding. Going to the full year, it's a full $87 million funding is included. Of that, there's a subsidy of $22 million from the general fund to cover the amount that the remedies don't cover currently. The goal is over time, hopefully, that program will end up collecting enough to cover itself as it goes forward. We also created a new emergency management and communications department. That's basically the group that would respond to disasters, emergency calls. They also do the 911 phone calls. We're consolidating those call centers to be more efficient as we move forward. And then finally, we added police officers, neighborhood police officers, 8. The police department went through an overall study, 8, and to redo the beats. As we've grown, they had to go through and look at the overall beat map, and as they went through it, there was 8 more beats added to the city's footprint because of the size of the city, the growth. And so 8 police officers are being added so we can have 8 more neighborhood police officers there. And then we had requests from schools for additional school resource officers, and so 2 are being added on the school resource officer side. That cost is split with the ISDs 50-50, so the city pays for half of the police officer's cost, and the school pay for the other half. On the infrastructure side, I mentioned the street maintenance. We added dollars on the PAYGO side. And our street folks tell us that we need approximately $100 million a year to be able to stay up with the maintenance required so it doesn't get into total disrepair that requires a full reconstruction. We're at about, 58 million currently? About 60 million, 55 to $60 million a year. So the goal is to increase that till we get to that full 100 million. And once we get there, hopefully that could be stagnant as we go forward. And so this year, we were able to add some dollars on the PAYGO side to try to move that up. We also added funding on the capital project delivery side, or added personnel, and actually are having more dollars. What we were doing on a lot of these projects is we were outsourcing the project management with private entities. As we looked at that, those costs kept going up faster than it would cost for city employees to do it. So we're bringing that work in-house, where city employees will actually manage the projects, and that'll give us more dollars to actually put infrastructure on the ground, streets. It's about a 20 to 25% savings. Is that your estimate? And so we're adding folks, but we're actually costing us less overall, so we can use more of those dollars to actually put it into asphalt, put it into park system and that kind of thing. And then I keep talking about us growing fast. We are growing fast. We're still averaging about 20,000 people a year. That's a small city coming into Fort Worth every year. And in order to stay up to that growth, and in order to be able to meet the needs of that growth, especially on the water and wastewater side, we have some major projects that are moving forward. Eagle Mountain Water Treatment Plant up north, next to Eagle Mountain Lake, is being expanded to be able to provide the necessary water to that growing infrastructure up north. And then Marys Creek, basically the sewer plant on the west side, is moving forward for construction in order for that wastewater treatment plant to be built to be able to handle all the wastewater from the west side of town that will be coming through. Currently, the city only has one wastewater treatment plant. It's way far in East Fort Worth, right by Arlington. Basically all of our current sewage flows to that plant. where everything's growing out to the west, in order to get all that to that plant, the cost of building pipes through the middle of town, all that would be enormous, and that's why a new plant was needed. On the community investment side, I mentioned the Housing Priority Repair Program. We added $500,000 there. The idea here, again, is to try to make sure that we're helping expend the life of affordable housing that's in town, existing homeownership in different parts of the town. I mentioned the mobile tool shed. That's being expanded citywide. And then the animal service piece. We also are continuing our neighborhood improvement program, which is basically a different neighborhood that needs a lot of TLC is chosen on an annual basis. And the city goes in, works with the neighborhoods to improve infrastructure issues, whether it be sidewalks, lighting, those kind of things. So we're continuing that program. There'll be a new neighborhood improvement program neighborhood this year. And then the Far Northwest Library will be opening toward the end of the next fiscal year. So we need to hire the folks that are going to be running that operation and be there, the librarians and the like. And so they need to come in a few months before it actually opens so that they can get trained and be ready to, once it opens, be ready to take over the facility. On the economic development side, you probably heard in the news, the city did away with what they're calling the DEI programs, but it was really one of the major components of that was our MBE program on the city's procurement side. The city council directed us to work in creating a small business program that was and basically there's funds to be able to do that in partnership with the local chambers, the Fort Worth Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, and the Black Chamber. Where they're going to assist us in making sure that we're helping smaller businesses in town grow as we go forward. We put some funding in there. We're growing so quickly. We last did a full economic development strategic plan in 2016-17. Since then, we've grown by over 100,000, maybe 120,000 people. And since COVID, the economics and the economy overall has completely changed. Where that plan, talks about trying to expand retail. Now everybody's buying from Amazon, and you have less and less brick and mortar things going on. So we need to update that plan. So that's in the budget. On the tourism side, and using our public events funding, which is not the general fund, you might have seen this. The city is moving forward with improvements to the Will Rogers Memorial Complex. That facility overall will be 100 years old in 2035, and so the city overall is trying to move forward to make sure that it stays relevant and is in good shape, continue to bring all the shows that come to town and bring that money from visitors. And then the Economic Development Initiatives Fund is a fund that we use to help bring projects here and or redevelopment projects by the city providing incentives and or assistance in infrastructure and the like. On the responsible growth, this is kind of a catch-all. So we like to think that what we do is that we're growing so quickly that we're trying to do it in the best way possible, and so that it's sustainable long-term. So we are moving forward. We've been this past year moving the comprehensive plan. We're going to continue to do that till we finish it this coming year. Our facility, our fleet keeps aging. It's again, the city's growing faster than we can keep up, but the vehicles, we added some funding to replace a larger percentage of our vehicles that are already obsolete. The city council approved last year a pay plan study. The city, especially a lot of non-civil service departments, we have high vacancy rates and or turnover. Part of that is that we weren't keeping up with the market on pay. So there's a pay study going on now to determine all the positions in the city and what people make or what the positions pay to ensure that we can keep up with that. There are some funds that should be completed about May of this coming year. So there are some funds in there so that we can start making some adjustments based on the pay plan to pay schedules. And then We're recommending some changes, mostly increases or just a new way to do it on the water side for some of the fees. The water side, we're creating a new tier structure. It's not really changing the rate, but it's capturing, as we're growing so fastly, and you might have read some of the articles about the need to conserve more, and as we go forward, the tier structures are being changed so that it really doesn't change the rates, but it adds more people on the higher rates that currently are there. So hopefully they use less water going forward. The Environmental Protection Fund is a recommendation to increase that by, is it 75 cents? For residential. Yeah, for residential, 75 cents a month. On the solid waste side, this is your trash pickup. There has not been an adjustment to this fee since 2003. And I think the adjustment at that time was to go down by 50 cents, right? I think it went down in 2014. Oh, 2014 it went down. And so, yeah, so it hasn't gone up since 2003. There's no way for us to keep sustaining that current cost. Our landfill is getting more and more filled up. At some point, we're going to need a new landfill, and there's no way to keep up with the cost without adjusting those rates. And then stormwater, there is a recommended increase in stormwater fee by
35 cents a month
for residential. Yeah. For the average residential, it's 35 cents a month. So most people are always interested in the general fund and the property tax. I mentioned the growth that we saw, 3.4% overall growth in the taxable value in existing. The majority of that had to do with commercial. The residential was generally flat because of the TAD not appraising this year. We do have taxpayers that are in Denton County, Wise County, Parker County, and Johnson County. They did have valuations change, but the majority, 96% or so of our value is all in Tarrant County. And then I mentioned the increase in the new construction value. That was a big number for us, 2.5%, that really helped us move forward. A lot of cities like Arlington, like Plano, are actually increasing their tax rates because they have very little opportunities to have any increase in the new construction side. So I mentioned the recommended tax rate. Currently it's 67.25. Recommendation is to drop it by 1/4 cent. And what we do here is we separate the tax rate into the operations and maintenance side, and then you have the debt service side. So 14.75 cents goes to pay debt that the city issues for various projects and infrastructure. And then the operations and maintenance side, we further split that for what we call pay-go. The capital piece is the pay-go piece, the pay-as-you-go. And we have 7.25 cents go to that. And then the other 45 cents goes to actual operations and maintenance. So for the 8th year out of the last 11, the property tax rate is being recommended to be reduced. On the overall citywide budget, so this was just this is the taxable values. On the overall city's budget, when you include all the funds, so you include the general fund, which is the property tax, sales tax, where police and fire are basically in, the debt service fund, special revenues fund that has CCPD and a few others, the gas lease, and that's a small one, but enterprise service funds, that's where the water department, for instance, is. And then internal service funds are departments within the city or funds within the city that actually charge other departments for the work they do, like our fleet services, for instance, because they work on the fleets owned by all the other departments. So the overall budget of the city is recommended to increase by $300 million from $2.8 billion to almost $3.1 billion. That's a 10% increase, but when you look at where those increases are happening, they're primarily happening in the debt service fund and the special revenue projects, and those are tied to some very large projects that are going on. I mentioned the water facilities, the wastewater plant, the water plant. That's where the biggest increases are happening. And then the convention center, which is actually funded by tourist funds, so it's not any local funds, it's all the hot hotel operating taxes. That's a big portion of this overall increases. On the general fund, it's $1.1 billion, the total funding, and that's an increase from about $1.06 billion. So it's an increase of about $48 million. You'll see that down here. And you can see the revenues, and then you can see the costs. And you see the actual general operating and maintenance dollars actually went down. I mentioned the cuts that we made. And so the increases that are really tied to salary and benefits that are, a lot of those are fixed when it comes to especially police and fire. So when you look at the general fund and the growth, I mentioned the increase about $48 million. 35 of that $48 million growth is tied to public safety. The $20 million in the EMS subsidy by the general fund, $10.2 million that is really tied to salaries from the meet and confer contract with the Police Officers Association, and $5 million on the collective bargaining contract with the Firefighter Association. The remaining $12 million under the workforce, I mentioned the pay for performance and the pay study implementation. That's about $12 million of that. And then the additional PAYGO funding that was included of about $4.6 million. On the enterprise fund side, these are the increases that we talked about before. You see a big increase really in the water, wastewater, almost 10%, 9.5%. And a big part of that is tied to all the capital that has to be put into the systems as we continue to grow and expand and build new facilities. Solid waste is the cost of just picking up our trash. The stormwater utility was mentioned. There's a small increase to cover a fee to cover that cost, and the other two don't really impact the general public. It's the municipal airports and the municipal parking fund. On the special revenue side, you see the various entities that are groups that make that up. The Crime Control and Prevention District is growing by about 2.6%. That's really tied to our estimate for the new sales tax to be collected this coming year. And then public events, a lot of that's tied to the Will Rogers complex. So this is where I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Director in the lab, Christy. And she can give you details on how it impacts the budget impacts the average taxpayer, and a few more things on the number side.
All right, so just a couple things here I'll highlight for you. At the top, we have the average taxable home. So this is with the homestead exemption applied. And it basically shows that quarter-cent reduction in property tax will result in about a $20 savings for the typical homeowner, as calculated with that average taxable home value. And then you'll see the fees that Jay just mentioned. So we are seeing increases in fees in a number of areas there. So the impact for the year for the homeowner is about a $36 difference. So about $56 in increase in fees, $20 reduction in property tax. So the impact is about $3 per month per homeowner. So that's how the budget breaks out for you all. Just a couple of other things here I'll mention. So this is our capital improvement plan. Every year we do an update to our 5-year plan. And you'll see there's a big number there for FY26 for the upcoming budget year. And that's really based on the work that the water department will be doing on those new facilities. And then also the big public events projects that are scheduled to begin in FY26. So that's the big increase that you see there. And then you see it kind of tapers off as we go. We do an update to the plan every year. So those numbers are changing depending on our needs as we go. This shows you how we're using those cash pay-as-you-go dollars for maintenance on different projects. It's kind of small, so I'll just walk you through it. The top line is the Transportation and Public Works Department. The blue bar is what they have in the current fiscal year, and then the green bar is what's proposed for next fiscal year. So you'll see that they're growing a little bit faster than the other groupings, and so that's to address some of the issues that we have with street maintenance in the city. So they're going to get a little bit bigger share of that cash for maintenance this year. And then the second group is property management, and then neighborhood services, IT, park and recreation, and then community partnerships. The park and recreation department is also getting a little bit more for maintenance this year than the other groups because we have some needs there as well. And then this summarizes the total budget. So you can see there that our total proposed budget for this fiscal year is $4.4 billion. So you can see the capital that we just looked at a moment ago, and then also the operating fund that Jay discussed. And then just want to remind you, we do have additional meetings coming up. So if you have a friend or neighbor or family member who couldn't be here tonight but might be interested, you can encourage them to come to one of the upcoming meetings. They can also watch streaming live and submit questions live, and we'll be able to answer those. So plenty of opportunities for participation still remaining. And then we're coming to our budget hearings and budget adoption, which is scheduled for September 16th. So that's what we have upcoming. And I think now we have plenty of time for questions. All right, I'm going to ask you to use the mic so we can catch you on streaming, okay? Oh. What's that?
I'll say something really quick.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, please.
Hey, Michael Crane, y'all's council rep. I'll say this. Thanks, Jay, for that presentation, and Christy. What I hear, and if you don't know Christy Dole in my office, that keeps me running, and y'all might reach out to her. What I hear consistently is our streets are horrible. What are we doing about that, right? What I hear consistently is our trash isn't being picked up. What's happening there? And what I hear is when I call 911, I want someone to show up and answer the call and figure out what the issue is and solve the problem. So I think if you look at this budget, that's where the priorities are and where we're putting dollars. We've also lowered the tax rate, which I'm pretty proud of Jay of doing that, and staff. Raise your hand if you're staff here. It's more than half the room. This is how important this is to listen to y'all, to make sure that we hear what's happening. This is a whole process. It's a whole year process. As soon as we've passed this budget, whatever it looks like in a few weeks, they will start the process again for next year. And so it's a whole back and forth in a year process. So it's not something that comes in overnight, but it's listening to concerns. It's listening across the board. So thank y'all for being here tonight. Thanks for the staff for being here tonight and the work. I mean, you got your police, fire, you got everybody here. So I want you to know that we're listening and we're trying to do what we can to make the city keep running and be better. So thank you. And
Thank you. You're welcome. My name is Michael Cohen. I'm Precinct Chair, 1347. Human Resources, from what I understand, will receive 12 authorized employee positions and $1.2 million from the DEI department. Most DEI employees will be transferred to this department. This raises questions about the continuation of DEI policies in city government. Is that the case here? Where is the tax savings? In my summation, this ideology, DEI, is comparable to the race laws of Nazi Germany. Merit and American exceptionalism should always be our goal.
So the Diversity and Inclusion Department was eliminated going into this next budget year. And as I mentioned, we have a small business development program that we're creating. So several of the employees from that department will be taking up working in that. It's a new program. We'll be working in that in the economic development department side. And then what you're referring to on the HR side, those are programs that are federally mandated that are not going away, like fair housing, like ADA, the American Disabilities Act, and what's that? Yeah, fair housing. So all these are federal programs that were federally mandated programs that were part of in the DEI. We had them before we had a DEI department. There were programs that were here. They got moved into the DEI department when that was created in 2018 or so. And now that it's gone, we don't get rid of them because we need to have them under federal law, and they've got moved into the HR department. So it's not a continuation. Those programs were here beforehand. They're required by federal law for us to have. So people can't. So we have a group. Let me give you an example. You go in to rent an apartment, and the person behind the desk doesn't rent it to you because you're over 50 years old. They don't want old people in the apartments. That's discrimination. Right. The city program to review that, and the complaints come into that office that was part of the DEI department. It's now in the HR department. So those got kept. Before it was in the DEI department, it was in community. It was in a different department that doesn't exist anymore when city got reorganized a while back. But it's not a program that's new. It's a program that's been around since the 60s or 70s. And when we did away with the DEI department, we did away with all those other programs that were part of DEI, but those that we had to keep that are part of federal law that we do, like ADA, we have a group that does the ADA requirements on buildings and the like. They're part of the HR. So.
Can you explain the coupling of Fort Worth, City Hall, and Chambers of Commerce, and how that happened?
Yes. So what we're
Are tax dollars funding the Chambers of Commerce and what they do, the Black and Brown Chambers of Commerce?
and also the Fort Worth Chamber. So all three chambers, what they're doing, since we're creating a new small business development program, what they're doing is providing services to the city. This is new, yes, and it's not race-based, it's not ethnicity-based. It's open to any small business that wants to assistance in getting bonding, in getting work with the city. How do they qualify? All those kind of things. The chambers are helping us. Instead of us hiring a bunch of employees to run this new program, they're basically an arm of the city helping us do that.
How did this new program come about?
It was, as we got rid of the MBE program, the request was that we have something to help supplement small businesses in Fort Worth, and that we assist small businesses, since we're doing away with the MBE program that was there to assist small business, minority-owned business enterprises. And so the city council requested that we come up with them.
Businesses that was under DEI that shifted over to
No,
the city?
it's not a minority-based program. It's a small business program. So the SBA has a small business threshold, right? And so that's the threshold for the small businesses that the city will be assisting to help them get work with the city, how to, again, getting bonding. The idea is to try to grow Fort Worth businesses here locally. It's not DEI based.
Can I say something there?
Sure.
I just wanted to say, so I kind of see where you're going. I'll say from day one have been smart supporting small businesses. So I'm glad this is back on the table. If you watch my comments from June 24th, as we were going through this process, I said to Jay, it feels like we've lagged in this, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Dana Bergdorf and her team that we looked at the systems and processes that held small businesses back, and we went from a 1 on 1 counter to almost a 5. This is the Institute for Justice. They surveyed our programs and looked and said, We have created barriers to entry. There were 20 pieces of paper you had to fill out to set up a business here. How do we collapse that? They weren't necessarily on the systems and processes. This we created a whole website, One Stop Business Shop. So I'm pretty proud of this because it doesn't matter what your color is, doesn't matter any of that. It matters that you want to step up and open a business in Fort Worth, Texas. So we're looking at that from across the board. So yes, the Hispanic Chamber gets money, the African American Chamber gets money, the Downtown Chamber, Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce gets money to help us implement that program.
Black, brown, pink, yellow, I don't really care. It's tax dollars.
I want people to succeed.
It's tax dollars that I care about.
Sure. And I do too.
My family pulled themselves up, and there was, they did it on their own.
Yeah.
They built their own businesses.
Yeah.
I pulled myself up
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not special. There's nothing special about me.
Yeah.
But I pulled up my own bootstraps, put 42 years worth of work into this country.
Yeah.
Right? There was no handouts.
This is not a handout. It's a it helps with our bureaucracy that the government has set up, and I'll say we are probably saving tax dollars by what we're doing.
Dollars that are coming out of our wallet, your wallet,
Your $36 there, yeah. That's being, yeah.
going towards this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah. No, I get what your point is. I'll say across the board though. I get it, and you see we've lowered the tax rate, but across the board, I think you look across what we will put back on the table that will help subsidize your streets, your roads, your police, your fire, and all the other things that you expect. I think it's across the board actually the right thing to do.
Craig Schaefer. Couple quick questions. One is, in looking at the revenue stream, I didn't see any income from hotel motel tax that I thought was going to be going into the convention center.
That was
One.
listed under the, do we have the presentation? You can throw it back out there. You see where it says public events?
Yes.
That's the public events department. All their funding comes from basically two sources, the hotel motel tax
Okay.
and the rental car fees at DFW Airport that we get a portion of.
Second question, what impact on revenue and growth is Taylor Sheridan having in Fort Worth and all the projects that he's creating here?
Well, I don't have an exact number. I know the Film Commission is looking to see how we can maybe come up with a way to track that, but they're having a really big positive impact.
It seems like
On
it.
the sales tax side specifically.
And is that
hiring.
impacting the state revenue that we're getting then as well?
Well, we get our 1 penny in general fund sales tax, and then we get half a penny for CCPD and half a penny for the transit, and then the other 6 1/4 cents goes to the state. So yeah, it's impacting the whole piece because they buy most of their stuff they're buying local for sets and all those kind of things, and then hiring local people in order for them to be able to get those incentives from the state, they have to hire a big percentage of them have to be Texans. So they're creating a whole new industry through that alone.
And my last comment is, what impact and how can we adjust sales tax revenue so we can do a better job of funding mass transit? And doing a cooperative mass transit in all of North Texas.
So Fort Worth only has a half-cent sales tax that goes to mass transit, right? Dallas County and a lot of those areas over there have a full penny, and we have the other half-cent going to CCPD. Well, under state law, we only have that 1 cent that we can designate for various things. So the only way you could increase that mass transit side is to decrease the CCPD side, right? So for police, I'm not sure who would be voting for a reduction in police funding. So I don't know that ship that sailed. Although there was a bill introduced in the legislature during this special session to allow local governments on a vote of the citizens to add another penny of capacity to the sales tax side. It would be up to the individuals at the cities to do that. It didn't get anywhere, but it was introduced. I hadn't seen that since 1992 when I started doing stuff on the public side. I'd never seen that bill even introduced. So, so it would take something like that.
Is there any movement, though, on a regional mass transit plan?
I think there's been some discussions down the state legislature. They actually passed some bills or worked on some bills to cap DART, so it kind of set things back. The discussions kind of get held back because DART has to now rework how they're spending their funds. So. Yes, sir.
You said you were going to contract out some of the animal control. I mean, I'm a volunteer for the animal control as a foster.
Can you talk into the mic?
But what kind of work would those contractors do, and where would you get those contractors?
I'll turn that over to our Director of Code Compliance.
Yeah, we got more than one mic. Can you hear me? Yeah, what that is our temporary contract labor. So when we have our kennel techs, which is the highest attrition we have, where we just go through people because that's the most challenging job we have. They're cleaning up dog poop and get the kennel techs. Yeah, and so what happens is we have the most attrition in that position, and we contract with Presbyterian Night Shelter and Goodwill to any of them that are trying to get back into the workforce, and we hire them on a temporary labor. And after 6 months, if they do well, they get hired in to be part of that. But it's kind of the glue that holds all the kennel cleaning together is that contract labor, and that's what they increased.
It's the kind of job people don't want to take. So. Yes, sir.
I would like to, y'all quit giving tax money away. It's not y'all's to give. Davy Crockett would have said that in the halls of Congress when he was a congressman from, I think, Kentucky or Tennessee, y'all are going to give $20 million to HEB. Okay? That's what I heard on the news this week. Okay, if you're going to give $20 million away, you're going to have to make up that $20 million. So you're really equivalently losing $40 million. It's algebra or it's accounting. Debits equal credits. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And then I have a real complaint about code enforcement. They're equivalently the General Worth and General Tarrant, how they just ran over the Indians. The code enforcement doesn't do anything but run over the people that are the most vulnerable, that don't have the wherewithal to defend themselves. And then what we need, instead of code enforcement, we need more police protection. And I'll say that police protection, we had one of my tenants, he tested new engines and that were imported. And he had one night 3 motorcycles. They ripped the side of the wall off, the steel panel, and stole 3 motorcycles. We went back and repaired the thing, and in 2 more nights, they ripped another panel off and stole 2 more motorcycles. And it took a week to get the police out there. Okay, and one of my tenants had his welding trailer stolen. It was tied to the dock lock that had a 1-inch cable running through the tires, and he had removed the hitch so they couldn't be stolen, and they stole it anyway. They cut the lock. We had dogs in there. That's the only thing that kept the bandits out. Okay, code enforcement shows up with 2 policemen, 6 animal control people, and 2 people from code enforcement. But what we need is police protection, where you can get a policeman out there and not wait for a week when someone steals something like that. I mean, you shouldn't have to wait that long.
I agree. The chief is here this evening, but I'd like to know where that happened, if we can get your information. What Does transportation include? Right. It entails streets, it entails street lights, everything that allows things to move. Anything to do with streets. No, no. Transportation and Public Works is the overall department. It's shortened to transportation. But
We have a question here.
Thank you. My name's Ken Bowers. I had a question. It's kind of a technical question, more of a regulation. Does the city regulation prevent street repair immediately after maintenance work done on sewers, waterworks, etc., water lines? There seems to be no inspections of road repair after construction. Contractors do not meet any standard known in the third world for repairs, recognized in any municipal area. The street repair, they patch it, they walk off, and you can sit there and put a time-lapse camera on it and watch the patch deteriorate. Westridge has been a bungle since back in the days of the Barnett Shale, when trucks were going over it. It has not been. The American Dental Association approves these roads because their teeth are falling out and everybody. Just asking the question.
so we do have inspectors, and if you have any specific areas, Lauren.
Yeah, so good evening. I'm Lauren Prier. I'm the Director for Transportation and Public Works, and we also have Mary Hanna. She is our Program Manager for Neighborhood Streets, so she's perhaps more familiar with this particular project. But as I understand it, it's actually a 50-50 project where TPW coordinates with the Water Department. So the Water Department has Chris, I believe, a water main being replaced in those neighborhoods, a significant water line, and so
It blew up right in the middle of dinner one night. I lost a hot water heater out of it. Literally blew the surface of the roadway, blew the tread out. And caused a hole big enough to park a VW.
So all of our construction projects are inspected, as Jay had previously said. Perhaps you were referring to pothole repairs. So potholes are repaired in the city within 48 hours. We do make sustainable repairs. If in an event of a snow, ice emergency or significant weather event, we will do temporary repairs and come back just to catch up.
No, I'm sorry, you don't. You do temporary repairs on top of temporary repairs on top of temporary repairs. Eventually, sometimes you gotta repave the streets at some point.
Are you talking about when that point in time is? Ken, are you talking about Westridge specifically? Because that was a
No, it's a
problem.
good start. Well, Edge Hill right now,
Well,
it's
Edge
blocked
Hill-
up. It's been messed up for 3 months.
So I'll just say this, and Lauren, you know this too. For 6 years, 8 years, Westwood was a huge problem. You drive over, coffee spilling all over you, etc. Because it was a sewer project and it had to line up. A number of years ago, they would go repave and do a whole street. This is way before my time, and then they'd come in and sewer like, oh, we need to repave. We need to actually rip it all out. So what you're reading, I think, is what was in response to that, previous councils that said, wait, don't do a project that's a major street repair before you repair the sewer, if you know the sewer needs to be repaired. And so, yeah, 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 yeah. Al Capone. That's exactly what's going to happen on Westridge. I hope so. Listen, it's been a pain in my ass for this long too, and I get it where you are. But
So often
listen,
with-
I was getting those calls even when I was running the office before. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm on that street all the time. Yeah.
Yes. And actually,
Yeah.
sir, we'll be talking with council on September 23rd about how Water Department and TPW coordinate on our
It
projects.
should have been done 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Understood.
But there was a sewer that had to catch up, and we get it all. We can talk offline about
Yep.
the technicalities, how those projects mess up or match up. But I'll say, way before my time, they would pave the street and then come along and realize they have to rip it back up to put sewer in. So they've had to.
And that would, somebody should be shot for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think staff is all talking. I'll say it was so high, they weren't necessarily talking, and that's what's happening now. That's why Westridge took so long to get where it is. It's going to be a mess. It's like a 2-year project, but it's going to be beautiful. And then I'm going to get calls about the speeders on Westridge after it's so beautiful you can drive down.
Well, and often in our construction projects, we have, separate contractors under the same contract for paving or utility work, right? So they will likely get to a certain point with utility work, the water main repairs, and then have a separate contractor mobilized for the paving.
What I'm talking about, I used to do this for a job. You've got 3 or 4 people doing something. Somebody in the city has got to coordinate each one of those functions.
Correct.
They have to do it. You don't just say, hey, you go out and pave that. Hey, you go out and dig a hole. You go out and stand by the hole on your shovel with 14 other guys and watch 2 supervisors watching one guy down in the hole digging. Somebody has to have supervision, has to come from the city.
Correct.
And I very rarely saw anybody from the city out working on Edge Hill or Westridge. Well, Westridge couldn't even go up and down for a while without going the other way.
And I will be happy to introduce you to the folks that do supervise such activities.
Same guy that came out to repair that hole that blew up that night. Got that at it. I'd like to meet him.
To piggyback off of this gentleman over here, Stephen Keith, lifelong resident of Fort Worth, licensed real estate broker. I've served on the appraisal review board a couple of years and dealt with property values and things. And it's great, we all experience the appreciation, but when the tax rate of Fort Worth is much, I've had numerous people ask me, why is the tax rate so high? I said, I wish I could tell you. I wish I could explain that to you, but I can't.
I can explain it to you.
I mean, Dallas is cheaper. Keller is way cheaper.
I can explain
Arlington
it.
is cheaper. Everybody's cheaper than Fort Worth. If you want to do something that really benefit the citizens of Fort Worth, would lower the tax rate, and I know I'd be a lot happier because of the taxes I pay on my investment property is tremendous, and
So I can explain it to you. So in 1990, 91, and 92, the city of Fort Worth lost 48% of its property values because of the downturn of the oil business and because of the defense cutbacks. And so the property tax rate in those years grew all the way to 97.5 cents. So in 1997, 98, 99, the tax rate was 97.5 cents. You could buy a home in Ridgely in 1994 for the engineers were all leaving because they didn't have a job anymore here, and they were selling it for what they owed on their notes so they could go to their new job in Atlanta or their new job in St. Louis. And so people were buying homes for $64,000, $55,000 in Ridgely. They went straight to the appraisal district and said, this is what I paid for my house. And so all of the Fort Worth's values were depressed. The city went from 4,200 employees to 2,600 employees in 2 years. I'm just telling you the facts. So 97.5 cents. Fort Worth's values were depressed. It's taken all this time for the values to be going up. That's allowed then the tax rate to have gone down by a third from 97.5 cents to where it is now to 67 cents.
And about 3 years ago, the market exploded and people were selling their houses for, I lived in a neighborhood off of Bryant Irvin, and a house in my neighborhood went for $100,000 more than the asking price.
Right.
But so, values
appraisal district can only go
went through the roof, and so did property values as well. I get
the appraisal can only go up 10%. So and the state has capped.
And see, that's another problem because as an investor, an owner non-occupied property, there is no limit. I've had property values increase 50%, 75%, 80, almost 100%.
Right.
And there's no 10%. I know the homestead rule, that's the law, but there is no safety net for me.
I understand, but I'm saying that based on how the city's overall tax base, about 60% of the tax base is residential. And so when you put everything together, that's why it's gone down to 67 cents. It wasn't, like I said, 97 and a half cents.
Well, and I understand that you want to give businesses incentive to come here, but if you give them a tax abatement, I mean, I've paid taxes. You guys are my silent partner. I never pay that property tax bill never goes away. I can't ever pay it off. I'll be paying that for as long as I own these properties.
That's for all of us.
And so, where's my tax abatement? I'd like to have.
If you invest $300 million of new value that doesn't exist,
completely stopped, came to a standstill. I mean, it didn't slow down. It stopped. It hit the wall.
So I'll give you the idea behind those incentives is to bring value that wasn't going to be here but for the incentive. So if a company's bringing $300 million, $1 billion of investment, and they're going to pick Fort Worth or pick Plano or pick Irving or pick Denver, that's when the incentives come in.
But if you give them the incentive and then, okay, that, just like the gentleman over here said, that's got to be made up somewhere.
No, it didn't exist before. When you give an incentive, say 40% incentive on $1 billion value, you still have $600 million of new value that didn't exist before. So that's all new dollars. The city never provides an incentive and never uses existing dollars for an incentive. Your HEB 20 million, that doesn't exist. We're not giving HEB an incentive. I don't know where you heard that, but it's just not true. It's just not true. Just telling you. It's the same thing as homestead exemptions that are provided. It's the same concept.
Hello, my name's Jenny. I live in Ridgely Hills. My question is, I think I saw a 6.5% increase to Parks and Recreation. Was that correct for 2026?
In their budget?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, what percent of that includes flushing toilets at our parks?
There's our Parks Director.
I'll gladly give this away.
Good question. Thank you. It has been a long-standing park policy that we do not put flushing toilets in parks except for in athletic complex, and that policy is being changed. So we do not have an actual percentage on that, but it's one of the initiatives. I'm a new park director. I started in February, and I've been talking to my assistant city manager about flushing toilets as one of our new initiatives that we want to show to the public. We want to raise the bar for parks in our cities, and so our first one will probably go in next year, and it's going to go next to Dream Park and Trinity Park, and from there we'll be branching out and adding flushable toilets in other parks as well.
Okay, good, because last time I checked, a first world country has flushing toilets for young children, and soap and water.
We agree with you.
And Dream Park has been in very bad shape. I have young children, and we have stopped going there because it's in bad shape and they can't go potty. So I really would love some PR for free. That public relations means for free, so don't spend money on this in your budget. But to let people know you can bring your kids to the park again, because if you have children that are out of diapers, you get to the park, you've packed your car, you go to the bathroom, you get there, 5 minutes in, I got to go to the bathroom. You leave the park. So I really appreciate that. And please don't spend any money on advertising. Public relations is for free. And let everybody know, because I can guarantee you businesses don't move to our city because our parks are gross. The kids can't go to the bathroom. We know we have bad schools. We're working on it, whatever. But that would be a really big deal, and I super appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. My name is Mary Frances Wood, and sir, I'm sorry I didn't hear what your name is.
I'm Jay Chapa.
Okay, are you from Fort Worth?
Not originally, but I've been here for over 30 years.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to point out something, is that the crash didn't happen in the 90s. It was the late 87 and 88. My family is very heavily involved in real estate, residential, and the real estate you're talking about in the neighborhoods that affected GD. And net worth went down 75%. It was not in the 90s. So I get your numbers right on that because I lived it. Number two, I want to follow up on this nice gentleman here and the one over in the blue plaid shirt because it seems we're in the same industry. And today, I encountered when I went to one of my investment properties, which I have numerous, my husband and I that we got from my family. And I was in a very threatened position. And it's been ongoing at an empty house by a neighbor. I called the police. They seemed very interested. The non-emergency line seemed very interested in my story. And then they said, oh, let me connect you to the person you need to speak to. And guess what I got? A rotating round and round, push 1 for this, 2 for animal control, 3 for solid waste, and all this BS. I was in a bad situation. I pay a lot of property taxes like this gentleman does and this gentleman over here and most of y'all in this room. And
You called 911?
no, I called the regular one because there was no gun involved and I had no response. So I finally got in my car to get to safety and left a situation. These people have stolen from me. They have been an ongoing nuisance in that neighborhood for several years. It's an owner-occupied block besides my house and that one. And I want to know why I'm paying I don't even want to go into the number that I pay in property taxes in this town because it's flooring, like this gentleman and this gentleman over here. And most of you, and I can't get someone to answer my phone call for when I'm in danger at one of my properties.
I have to point out what you just said there, Francis, that you said you didn't call 911 and you were in danger.
Well,
you called a non-emergency. Why didn't you, I would say that, call 911. You know what we're friends. Call
right.
911 if you feel you're in danger, and these guys will show up.
No, they don't. I called 911. Okay, I'll tell you right now. I've called 911 before. They said it was a non-emergency and they were not coming to that property. And I own a lot of property in 76116, and I am flabbergasted by this. We back the blue. My husband and I donate to the police. I don't expect any special treatment than any of our other citizens, but for me to be told they're going to listen to me, and I get put on this rotating line.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is that if you feel threatened, call 911. And I'm telling you, we will show up. Okay, I know that you probably have had incidents where we may not have showed up.
No, they haven't.
And I would love to sit down with you and get those incidents so I can research them myself and so we can get back to you to see why we did not show up. But I can tell you, I mean, we're here to protect you. We're here to protect everybody. And when you call, we will show up. Now, some of the other calls, because we're on a priority-based list, depending on how the call is called in, the details that we get, we go to the most urgent calls first. If you are being threatened, that's a fairly urgent call for us. We're going to get there as quick as we can. But if something's being stolen and the suspects aren't there anymore, it may take us a little bit of time to get there because we are going to those urgent calls. So please don't think that we don't care, because we do. And I'm more than happy to sit down with you and talk about all the incidents and at least research the incidents and get back with you to see what the delay was.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had this instances with a former constable who's actually a family friend who's deceased, where it's been a nightmare. And I'm in this business, my family's been in this business for, God, I don't know, 80 years. And I know what I'm doing and I know the law, but it was really heartbreaking for me today that no one would help me.
Well, I'm sorry about that, honestly.
Thank you.
We did have a question that came in through email, and it's we noticed that Glenwood Park has $2 million allocated for park enhancement. Will this budget remain, and what part of the fiscal year will the funds be released?
That $2 million that they refer to is actually in the fiscal year 26 or the 26 bond program and not in the budget.
Okay.
So yes, that's still in our proposal.
Hey, I'm Natalie Weimer. I live in Michael's district. Okay, so a couple different questions. Seems like we were just asking all the questions. Homeless support in the city of Fort Worth. What is happening with that in terms of the new budget? Do you want to take this back? Just go back and forth.
Just get your answer right there.
Sure. Hi, my name is Bethany Warner. I'm an intergovernmental relations manager at the city, and the Homeless Strategies unit is on my team. Come around where y'all can see me, led by Tara Perez. So we have a couple different things happening in the FY26 budget. One thing to know is there's about $6 million in general fund dollars that is within the Homeless Strategies unit. It funds a couple different programs. I won't try to get into all of them right now, but it's various things like Rapid Exit. It helps employed households get back on their feet when they fall into homelessness, or case management for permanent supportive housing. One of the bigger things in FY26 that you may have heard about is our high impact program, of which Camp Bowie area is one of the target areas. And it is a new program that started about 17 months ago as a pilot and is going into the next year. And it is working at the intersection of severe mental illness and long-term unsheltered homelessness, that very tricky population that is in some of the hardest hit areas with homelessness, that might have some folks that are going to be really difficult to get them into a situation where they're not on the street. So that's a program that's continuing into FY26. And we've got several. I can point you in the direction on our website where it shows the different programs we have. And then I think it's always important to note is when we talk about what's in the city budget with homelessness, we also talk about that the city is a piece of the larger homelessness strategies for the city and region. We're part of a continuum of care with federal fund dollars that flow through Partnership Home, which is the lead agency for our COC. So we're not even the largest funder when it comes to homelessness response, but the city is a key partner in a lot of things going on there. And then in the city, speaking now about the Homeless Strategies programs, but of course there's also our HOPE unit in the police department that works on response, our environmental services that works on camping issues, parks department that looks at parks. So it's a lot of folks kind of coming together. It's a, as you know, really complex problem. And so we kind of come at it from a lot of different avenues.
Is there a continuation of the, or is there, yeah, sure. That's okay. What is happening? So you talked about Camp Bowie. What is also happening in the TCU area? Because that is also an area that's experiencing a lot of homelessness and crime. And I have a lot of rental properties in that area, and there is regular conversation about concerns about homelessness in that area also.
So the TCU area is not one of the target areas for high impact, but that's not the only program out there. I think, whenever it comes to specific areas that are having issues, we go in and Tara can bring along HOPE and PD and the players to bring folks together, talk with their MPO about the issues they're having and try to see how it needs to be tackled. What are the issues and what are the things that need to be happened? Do we need to be working with businesses? Do you need to be talking to the NPO more? So I think, I would hope if you're not already, maybe having the conversations with the MPO for that area about what you're seeing and continuing that. And then if we need to get our Homeless Strategies unit involved to come in and think about some other strategies, does outreach need to be operating in the area? Are there other homeless service organizations that need to be operating in the area? I think we try to look at it kind of case by case what the neighborhood is experiencing.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to just take that? She can let's make this easier. I know. Okay, so also I want to say thank you to all the city people that are here. I appreciate you coming to listen and hear what we have to say. You said something about federal dollars coming through. I know there were a lot of cuts on grants and programs and all that sort of stuff. Has there been a change in this year from the federal dollars that are flowing through as far as helping with homelessness?
Not at this time. The federal dollars largely flow through the continuum of care, so that's Partnership Home as the lead agency. We do have some that flow through the city. In neither case, there have been changes as of yet, but Partnership Home is really closely watching that to see if there are any changes in either the amount or the way they're administered or the way that they need to be put out into the community. So they're closely watching to that, but no changes at this exact moment.
Okay, thank you. I have more questions. Parks and Rec. What's going on with putting trees? Because I agree with the park situation. It's so hot here in Texas. And almost none of the parks have adequate shade and trees. And a lot of times you have to go through the neighborhood organizations to get trees, and they don't always approve them. What is going on with parks and trees and shade?
Sure.
For our small children?
Thank you. We actually do have a goal of a 30% tree canopy, and we're currently at about 19%. And so we do have an initiative to increase the number of trees that we're putting out into the public spaces. We have a tree farm that's at the Rolling Hills complex that we grow our own trees, and we donate them to volunteers who are part of that program. But if you have areas that you'd like to see more trees, we would certainly love to see what we can do to add trees.
Is 30% the tree canopy for just the parks or for all of the
Public
city?
spaces. Yeah.
Public spaces.
Absolutely.
What about the Trinity Trail? If there were trees along Trinity Trail, it would be beautiful.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, not on the levee, but along the Trinity River. Not the levee part, but, on
The other side, that's not the levee side.
near Clear Fork, that whole area, there just aren't any trees.
I agree. They're not enough.
It would really be nice.
Sure.
And beautiful and
Oh.
more comfortable if there were trees along the Trinity River.
So what is the reason for the 30% number? I understand we probably just need to have some open areas, but if for every park to have shade, what would that mean in terms of the percentage?
Can't tell you what that would look like to be covered completely, but when we did the Urban Forestry Master Plan, best practices, studied other cities, what's a good number that we should be at, and 30 is an aspirational goal for us, knowing that we're at 90% now, so we're increasing to get to that. We love shade. Shade helps parks. It helps decrease the temperature in the entire city. I mean, we're parks people. We love trees. But not everything can have a tree. We have open play areas and things that, can't be fully treed, but yes, we are adding trees as quickly as we can. It's a value for us.
When is the 30% goal set to be hit? What is the expectation?
I don't have an answer off the top of my head for that, but I'll get back to you with it.
Awesome. Okay. Another question. Oh, yeah.
So the Tarrant Regional Water District controls the Trinity Trail system. And so the Parks Department, you might want to talk about the trees that you added along Forest Park, because that was a partnership where the Water District has to approve tree plantings there.
Yeah, we did add some on the east side of the river, between the river and the water plant there. And it was a partnership with TRWD, with the Corps of Engineers, with the Water Department. It's quite a bit, and I think we added 30 trees. But so there are some being added, and we obviously look at key areas that we should add those to get to the 30% goal.
So the 30% wouldn't include the Trinity Trail. It's just city-owned parks.
It's public spaces within the city. Yeah.
Okay, so it does include the trail even though you are not in charge of the trail. Is that what I'm hearing?
In general, if we take the entire square area of the city, 30% of that we want to be covered by trees. I don't know if it's as specific as delineating all of those areas, but in general, yes.
Okay, because my next question was going to be what was the Trinity Water District's goal for tree coverage on the Trinity Trail, but you're saying this is all within the same.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a specific goal. They don't do trees. Yeah, if you're interested, the Urban Forestry Master Plan is online, and so you could
I've
peek
seen
at
it.
But I'll get back to you. Okay, I'll get back to you on the date.
Okay, awesome. Can you explain how CCPD funding works? I don't remember.
So the CCPD funding is a half-cent sales tax that the voters approved originally in 1996, I believe. Is that right? 97? No, it was actually 95. Yeah, 95. That was approved in 1995. It's been approved by the voters of Fort Worth, again, multiple times. It was every 5 years, and the last time it was for 10 years. And those funds go toward to be used by the police department primarily, and it's for crime prevention and for police activity. So All our cadet classes, for instance, so when we're hiring new police officers, get paid out of the CCPD. All of the fleet, new cars, as cars wear out, get paid by CCPD. We have a program that we provide funding to some nonprofits that do crime prevention activities. They get paid out of CCPD. So it's an annual budget, just like the rest of the budget that gets brought forward. The board is the city council, so the CCPD board, they review the budget requests as they go through, and it's basically a half-cent sales tax.
But the rest of the police is funded through a different portion.
The rest of the police department, the base police department, is funded out of the general fund through property and sales tax, and like the rest of the general fund, like fire, like most of the transportation public works, like the parks department operations, those kind of things.
Okay. Okay. Thank y'all for being patient. Why are community partnerships going down? I mean, I'm just kind of curious. Is it going down or going up? Maybe I read it wrong.
That was reduced from $1 million a year to $500,000 a year. That is a funding source where if a partner in the community, we've based it on what the need was on previous years. So I'll give you an example. Casa Mañana, they want to do some improvements at Casa Mañana. That's a city-owned facility. They come to us and they raise $100,000, and we take it to the city council, and then out of that fund, we match them $100,000 so they can do their infrastructure improvements. So it's really, really specific for partnership opportunities that are typically kind of city-based facilities or city-type.
Where you match funds.
Yeah.
Got it. One more question. What is so the property tax rate is decreasing.
Correct.
By 1/4 cent?
1/4 cent.
Per on average, yes. So is that just the residential rate, or is that a commercial rate, or how does that work?
That's all same rate for
So
everybody.
everybody,
It's the same rate.
businesses, residences are all
The
getting.
$36 was the average.
For a
home value.
homeowner.
Yeah, home value. That's what that was.
What does that translate into dollars for the entire budget?
About 3.4. So about 3.4 million.
So the total amount that we're going to take in if the values of homes didn't change is 3-point-something million less.
If we left the tax rate without changing it, we would collect $3.4 million more. Yes.
Yes. So you're going to take in 3.4 million. Yes, you would collect 3.4 million more. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank y'all again for being here.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier about. Hello? You mentioned earlier about your current budget for roads is 58 million or 68 million. I might have misheard you.
Between 55 and 60 million. I don't remember the exact number.
But you need 100 million.
Right.
So there's going to be a shortfall this year.
There's been a shortfall every year. So we're trying
there has been.
We're trying to build it up to get to
When do we? Well, that's my question. Is one of these two lines going to cross? Do we have an expectation on that?
So we have a 5-year program to try to get close. And it was based on the continued growth of the city and new values. Because we have currently we have a cap on property values of existing properties of 3.5%. So we can't collect more than 3.5% in new revenues from existing property. So the growth has to come from new values altogether. And so in order to be able to do that. So the only other way to do that is and we're not going to do that, that's why you call it pay-go, you pay as you go, is to issue debt. We're not going to do that for maintenance. So over a period of time, we added 4.6 million this year. The Transportation Public Works Department came in asking for like 10.5 to try to move it along. But that would be another 6 million that we'd have to take from somewhere else to be able to put it there. And so we try to balance where the dollars are going overall to keep the budget moving forward.
Okay, so my smart aleck crack a while ago about in this century, it's still a pretty good estimate, huh?
In this century, well, I think it's all going to be based on how our values go forward and the ability to put more dollars into that pay-go side. We're also looking at so like Arlington, Austin, I think Plano, they have a street maintenance fee. And so we're looking at that potentially would dedicate dollars, like a fixed dollars to that, where you could collect somewhere between 20 and 30 million. That would help with a big bump. But that'll be in the future. City council would have to approve it and go through that whole process.
Is there a city component to the gas tax at the pump?
No gas tax and no vehicles either. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Our country's going to be 250 years old, and I think that most of y'all people are concerned about your country because you're here. And I would suggest get yourself educated on the founding documents. Start reading the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and start reading your state constitution.
Thank you. Michael, you want to close this out? Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for your time and coming out.
I just want to say, I think that you guys are doing an outstanding job of trying to bring it together, make the improvements and the adjustments and close the gap.
Thank you. Thank you.